This episode was brought to you in collaboration with the Female Founders Initiative, introducing our new monthly series. The Female Founders Initiative supports and empowers female entrepreneurs all over Switzerland through a variety of events, workshops, and activities. They've also compiled a map of all the female-led Swiss startups, which you can check out by visiting female-founders.ch.
Early startups, they still get money, but right now we have a very difficult situation, even for very, very outstanding startups who have to wait longer, have to dig deeper. And I'm not saying this is wrong. I think it's good to work hard to get finances because investors also want to see that, but it is to a point where they spend way too much time on that.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Merle.
I am very happy to have you here today, Regula. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your experiences on this podcast with us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Before we go into your background and what you've been doing so far, I would love to crisply understand right at the beginning, what do you love about coaching specifically entrepreneurs?
Oh, what I love most is that they're just incredible, genius people. They're so brave. They start something, they don't know where it ends. They don't go a path down that is clearly described like you have when you go into academics. It's also good, but it's another way. I enjoy being challenged by these young people, mostly young people. They're getting also older then. But just it's phenomenal what they can achieve. We have, these are great people, and we hear today a lot, and we will still hear in 10, 20 years and say, oh, we got to know them some time ago. So I'm thrilled that we have so many entrepreneurs today here in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you say that they challenge you as well, and they, I guess, also inspire you. And these are young minds. And talking about young minds, I kind of want to go a little bit back from your path, because I know that you've studied or you have a background in education, both a bachelor's and master's degree, but you've spent a lot of time in the education field. So I want to understand, and I have my own theory, but I also want to understand from you, where are these two things connected, education and entrepreneurship, or your path in it?
Yes, education, entrepreneurship, and then coaching and training, they are very, very interconnected. And well, actually, education, just to go back quickly in my background, that was never what I wanted to do. But I grew up with quite a conservative father. He was a workman, not academic. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and none of them studied. And I always knew this is something so cool to learn and just kind of not knowing everything from the beginning. So I actually went down the path. I could convince my father that I could become a teacher, earn money, and at the same time I could then just kind of going on with my studies. Then education was actually really, learning was actually what I did. And so what is it connected with entrepreneurship? As an entrepreneur, you need continuously to be able to learn, to be willing to learn, not just academic-wise, not just what kind of tools I need, but also personality-wise. It's kind of a learning path in 3 or 4 dimensions. And I think so, therefore, I was well trained. So I say I had to go into education. I'm actually today grateful I could do that because it brought me to training and coaching. So there's nothing wrong about it. It's just kind of embracing where you come from and what you have done and being at peace.
Yeah.
About your path, you can go down the road. And just to make a connection also to entrepreneurs, they end up sometimes at places they don't want to be, and they have hard worked for it, but they just did not reach a point where people say, oh, this is successful, even though they learned a lot, they have accomplished a lot, and just kind of embrace it and say, I came that far, and now let's see which other path I can go down. Which suits myself, my strength. Behind people, they can complement myself. So we are very much into entrepreneurship right now already, but I think education, entrepreneurship, coaching, training, actually I see many entrepreneurs, they go into coaching and training afterwards. And I love it because they are the ones who experienced it firsthand. Not to say that there are coaches who have not done that. I think it's just the width. I see 200, they see maybe 2 or 3 of them. But I think both of them have its place. And I love it that they go and train and coach younger startups again. I think this is wonderful. That's what we have to foster much more also in our ecosystem in Switzerland, Europe. Worldwide, we have it already. We have some really nice role models there.
Yeah. Did you ever consider going into education again, into schools or something?
Well, it's actually funny that you're saying that. I was asked 3 years ago by the director of the trading school of KV, Handels School and so on, if I want to become in their board, and now I'm their president. And when he asked me, I said, what should I do in the educational system? It's so kind of framed. And he said, well, we exactly need this entrepreneurial thinking and mindset there. So I said, okay, I come and check it out. And I've not regretted it a second to have done that.
Great.
And I mean, when you're saying going back to education, I mean, when I work with the Startup Campus or the Female Accelerator, it's not teaching, it's more coaching and training, but again, it's connected. And I love it. It's just so much a part of it. And yeah, just as an entrepreneur myself, I can do that 20-30%. And I think it's a very nice combination.
When you founded Softech, that was around 2009, I presume the landscape in Switzerland was quite different than from what it is today. Can you tell us a bit about who were your clients back then? Was it already startups? And yeah, what was different then versus now when you look at the Swiss startup landscape?
Company was founded much earlier, but by my husband, and that I took it over because he got into employment again. And I did training and coaching. I was in a big coaching and training company worldwide. And at this point, I decided I think I can do that myself also as good, probably even a little bit better in my side or in my niche. And at this point, I did not coach and train startups at all. That came a little bit later. And I did Fortune 500 companies. People and companies, they were worldwide operating, very tough situations also. So I could relate that afterwards. So fast growing, tough situations with my startups. It's actually started only at 2015.
Okay.
There I became the managing director of the W.A. de Vigier Foundation, a big foundation, Swiss-wide known, which does incredible job for startups. And I'm so happy. And there I actually got to know startups. And I was, after a year, I was hooked. I did the job around 70% as the managing director and did always coaching and training on the side, the rest of it. And I started to do that with the startups and I got so hooked, even though there was not so much money, not so much kind of show off what kind of clients I had. I felt very much I could make a difference there. But coming back to your question, what has changed? Again, before 2015, I had actually no clue about the startups. And I was even asking the foundations, what do you want to do with me? I mean, where do I come in? I have training and coaching, and I found them it took me a year, but I found out I think it's a nice fit that I took over this foundation. What has changed? I mean, I went in the W.A. de Vigier Foundation is a foundation that has been more than 30 years on the market, was one of the first one. Actually, Bill de Vigier was kind of the pioneer doing that, supporting startups. The word startups was not known. It was young entrepreneurs. That was actually until 2012. They called it the young entrepreneurs until this startup. So this fast-moving, worldwide going deep tech companies. And when I look back and I could compare what kind of startups were selected at this time, from my time on, and They were deep techers, really very intriguing technology, something out of the box. Could also be in the business, but more really in technology-wise. And not necessarily just from universities, also from the Fachhochschulen. So I thought that was really interesting. And before, they were not so much into deep tech, probably also because they were supported in another way, maybe came more out of companies and were supported. That's so we would have to ask that somebody who has been in there for much longer. But what has changed in the landscape, and I can definitely say that around 2014, 15, they had many more accelerators here in Switzerland, many more supporting groups. InnoSwiss started with these coaching programs much more intensively. Also these business concept courses that also for the startups build, or ideation courses, they really started to pick up at this point. Yeah. And I have to say, I'm so grateful that this happened, because some people say, oh, don't we have too many of these? And I say, no. We have so many different people and so many different young entrepreneurs or startups. I think they need to have a choice. And I think the best one and the better ones, they will survive and thrive. And the other ones, well, they will probably then either pivot or just find another way to do business.
The more the merrier, basically.
Yes, I would agree to that. It's a little bit simplified, and I know that, but I prefer to have a diverse and more than when you don't have that. I mean,
you don't have the options.
And the Silicon Valley, I lived in San Diego for 6 years, and this kind of entrepreneurial spirit, that was 2000, and all the big tech really arose then. And we had friends ourselves who went then into a startup and could sell it then, and was just vibrating. And I think we need this vibration here too. We need to kind of not, what is this startup? What is this strangely doing? No. They're accelerating our companies, our economies. We need that.
Do you feel like, in comparison to the US and Switzerland, that this vibration that you said is still not 100% here? Or do you feel like it has grown?
It has grown. It has grown. And when I look at universities where they bring also professors like zum Buchen back and kind of where we kind of also challenge ourselves, our system, it is there. I can feel it. I can see it. On the educational part, on the supporting part, definitely. On the financial part, we have big time to go also. I mean, our country, it is slower, more considering, not so much risk-taking. I think this is in our nature. But still, when I see the huge funds we could have from the pension fund, and just to have 1 or 2%, I'm thinking, what are we waiting for? I mean, we need to put that into innovation. We need to put that into bringing our companies forward. And that's a small risk we're taking.
Yeah. I want to quickly go back to what you said before, that when you started, I guess specifically with Devigier, and you met all these young entrepreneurs and you started coaching them as well, fast, like moving forward to today, when you look at the startups that you coached then and the startups that you coach now, do they still have the same struggles?
Financial wise, yes. And I think today even more. Early startups, they still get money. But I mean, right now we have a very difficult situation, even for very, very outstanding startups who have to wait longer, have to dig deeper. And I'm not saying this is wrong. I think it's good to work hard to get finances, because investors also want to see that. But it is to a point where they spend way too much time on that, where they could actually. So this is on the financial side. And then when we talk about skills, I think we have looked over the Atlantic and see how young startups pitch and present themselves in the US. And I think many startups have learned that they need to just really stand there, conquer the floor, conquer also kind of their vision, still being realistic at some point about it, not going over the top there. yes, I can see very much that this skill has improved. And also when I look at the landscape also, I mean, what I always like to see also that we have many women coming into that, and I see that they're coming. I talked with you before also about the Startup Campus, where we have many more young women there coming with ideas. So I see that specifically women also picked up these skills and say, why shouldn't I not try it? Yeah. What is there for me? Where can my competence, put that into a business? I see that. Skills-wise, I think also how to approach investors. I think we have learned also how to approach them. Also, thanks to all these supporters, to InnoSwiss courses, to Startup Campus who does that. And I just remember also the Female Founder Accelerator. Was really honored also to be able to give training there. And I could really see how these women embrace that and say, I'm not so competent yet in that, but I can learn it. And just to get really to see the progress in these 8 weeks. And it was just kind of thrilling for me to see that. So yes, absolutely. I can see that these skills improved and that we do dare to say that. I mean, Switzerland has so much to offer with our universities, with our young people and attracting talents also here. So we don't need to hide ourselves.
What would you say is like a skill or what is something that a young CEO starting out should have? What do they need to kick it off?
I'm referring back again to the business concept, maybe because I have to start this evening. It's just so much on my mind, but we're giving them a toolkit this evening. I mean, over these 12 weeks. I mean, it's not like kind of, where do I start now? And they need to kind of look around for a year, what kind of resources are around. I mean, they get it compact right there. And I know there are many other accelerator programs who do that and support young entrepreneurs. So kind of just the basic tools. What is there? How do I found a company? How do I put my founder team together? Have a founder agreement? I mean, what kind of finances do we actually need? So this is super cool how we have just kind of the facts, the tools like a business college degree, but just hands-on. Actually, I can afterwards also describe that a little bit where I have seen it. And then on the other side, what they need as in personality-wise, and that's my core topic where I talk to the CEOs and the team building. I think they need to be quite reflective. They need to see, where am I really good at? And then look around and be very honest and say, I need somebody else on my side. I mean, if I do deep tech and I have been studying at ETH and in robotics, it might be really good to have somebody who has some business background, or to have somebody along who says, I really know how sales works and I have done that. They might pick that up also. They can learn that if they find that intriguing and really see this is also a skill set they want to develop. So reflection, I think this is one of the most important things, just seeing where are my strengths. And then I had just yesterday evening, I have 5 performer groups where we have 4 or 5 startup CEOs who have done already a Series A, have done really kind of felt the difficulties of leading a team. And we talked there about resilience. And 2 of those in the group really shared some really tough situations they went through. And then we just took a step back and said, but you made it through. And what have you learned? And what they were saying is, I learned that I have really to take sometimes the Sunday or the weekend off for myself, or maybe need to take sometimes vacation. So this sounds maybe very kind of strange, but if you go and have a 9-to-5 job, and there's nothing wrong about that, but if you have such a job, you're eligible for vacation, you have kind of your weekends. But when you have a startup and you have investors, a board, customers who are waiting to see progress, this is nice. It's pushy. It's. I think it's also thrilling, but at the same time, it can be also quite a big pressure. And if you make it through those pressures, this is a resilience that can help you in every aspect in your life, with your marriage, with your kids, with your coworkers. I mean, you name it. And so when you ask me what are areas, I think self-reflection, all the add-ons I made, And then also really kind of this resilience, being able to really go through pressure and enjoy it, or enjoy it at least afterwards.
Yeah.
Don't get frustrated or also broken. We have some, they really all get a burnout. Yeah. And just really kind of saying, I do things most people would not even dare to do it. I learned so many things the last 3-4 years. I'm kind of just, what an exciting life I have. But the price is also there. And if you look at the price tag and say, I take this price tag also. It's both. It's really both. And when I invest myself in startups, and these are the two things I look mostly. Of course, I want to have a cool product and seeing, but when I see they look at themselves, they accept also coaching. Not every coaching. I mean, you need also to say certain things. Okay, we need to do it our way. So
do you have any techniques, or when you work with your startups? Because I believe that this topic of resilience and mental strength is super important. I mean, also in the growth aspect, it must be a daunting feeling sometimes to be an early stage startup and then knowing at some point, I mean, I want to grow, but that means also I have more people I need to take care of, need to be able that they can pay their rent, that they can pay their life basically. And it's at the end of the day on my shoulders, I need to carry it. So it is a lot on your mental health. How do you support these entrepreneurs? Do you have any techniques or anything where you can really help them through, like you say, build up resilience?
Yeah. I mean, one part it was actually Lea von Biedel. She called me up around 5 years ago, and she said, Regula, I'm back from the US now, and I really miss being connected in a group, being in a group where we can share, where we can open up and know everything stays right in there. I said, I would be more than happy to help to pick that up, and it was also clear that I would go into the lead because she had her whole startup. So I was looking around for startup CEOs who went through so there's my kind of framework, who went already through difficult situations, because if you haven't gone through that and it's kind of the honeymoons. I mean, I have young startups, they say, oh, Regula, sounds really interesting, but I don't need that. I really don't need that. And some really don't need that because they have their friends, or they cope in another way, and this is totally fine. But most startup CEOs or founders say, after a time you have been really pushing this startup and bringing this team along, bringing the product along, you kind of have the urge to also look after yourself, and you need also to look after yourself. It's kind of like this oxygen mask. Yeah. When the airplane is not going down, but has not so much oxygen anymore, you need to put it on yourself so you can help everybody else. And that's exactly the picture what I give the startup CEOs. You've got to take some time out. And what are tools? I'm using it before we even start with these high performer groups. Each one needs to say that they really want to share also some difficult things. You need to be willing to do that. If you're not at this point, wait, maybe get to that point. You need to kind of share, talk about it, feeling uncomfortable, having a vision also, and not just a vision. I mean, when I ask startups, they have the vision for their product. They have it always. For their team, just growing. And so this is, and then the vision for yourself. I mean, where do you want to be in 10 years or in 5 years? Where do you want to bring that? So this vision, and then I really mean with this vision to have a picture, where do you want to be in 3, 5, 10 years, depending a little bit of what kind of startup you're pushing. To have this picture in mind kind of brings it right back. I want to be with my team, for example, on stage in 5 years with all my co-founders and the 20 others who brought that along. So it's not I'm myself up there and I'm the hero. No, I want to bring everybody else along. And they kind of visualize that they have brought a product to the market which is beneficial. It's really, really bringing value. It's something that they sustainable. It's not just so when they put that into words and then maybe even draw it also, it's a super resource to go through tough times. Sometimes I just don't see when I'm just in this finance round and I got the last investor who says, no, I'm not going to invest. And now this means we are bootstrapping. It's just kind of, this is such a difficult place to be. And then just to see the picture, but we want to go there and let's try it.
Yeah.
Even with a bootstrapped startup, who knows? We might get money then later on again.
You said before that you worked in the US as well, right? And I've often talked to founders who also say that this failure culture is so different in the US than it is here. And I find it super interesting. If you just look at the word failure, it means not accomplishing on your purpose or lacking success. And I wonder often, how can we transition from this lack of success or not accomplishing a purpose to, yes, we maybe lack success, but we open possibilities and we grow towards something else. And I feel like it's really hard to have this shift of mindset sometimes. And I wonder if you can share anything, maybe also from your experiences in the US, where you've seen how people deal with it and how they maybe also even celebrate failure.
I found this word failure very difficult. It's not existing in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's trying things, then stumble over it, get up again, try a new avenue. And then you talk about the US, and I studied there again, career counseling, and was also there at the university and as an adjunct professor. And with these students there, also with the professors around me, it was really interesting how they always just looked at the possibilities and not at the stumbling blocks of what can we achieve. And there are limits, and I think we have to be realistic about that. And maybe somebody else helps me to go over there, or somebody else needs to take it up from there. But the mindset here in Switzerland is still, not so much by my entrepreneurs and by my young startup CEOs. I often see that they say, if this is not going to happen, okay, I might have not a nice social media representation, or my investor will not be happy. And they, of course, themselves neither, because they burnt money. But I think they start to live with it because it's a part of it. I think it's more also our culture around it. So you did not make it, or where are you going now? And what have you achieved now? And I think this mentality kind of needs just not to face us. It's just kind of, it's a different way how we need to define also what is success. Of course, we like startups who make an exit or who are really growing. I love when I see the startups like Beekeeper, Climeworks. I could name now many, many more times. So Cutis, Diana Moore with Move On. I love to see those startups. When I see they're successful and they're moving, they're thriving. But if they're not going there, they have probably done a big milestone for other startups who come after them. They have done a lot of work research-wise, what we can hopefully use again. And just going back and compare to the US, I think we can really learn a lot there. When I lived there, I felt like I got a new personality again. Every time I was kind of saying, well, it's difficult with my Swiss mind, I said, so why don't you try it? Get up and do it. Just kind of, and I really started to love that. First, of course, I did not like it. And it was kind of saying now I should just do it. But this mindset, try it. If you haven't even tried, what is this? What are you complaining? What are you moaning around? And it's really this mindset I love about the Americans, that they also, people who have money, who have a lot of money, and just decide that I give 10% of all this money, I give to startups. I take the chance. and not to worry too much about this 10%. I mean, and when it's successful, they will earn a lot. They can reinvest it again. But this mindset of giving back, this mentality of, I received so much. And I actually see that more and more here in Switzerland too. I mean, many trainers and coaches I meet, they say, I was so lucky in my life. I had my own startup, or I just have done really well with my company, and I can now give back. And I think this culture we have more and more. So let's talk about overcoming hurdles, overcoming difficult situations, and redefine also success, and leave failure just out of our vocabulary. I wish I could. I sometimes still use it.
Yeah, but I know exactly what you mean. Actually, today I Googled the etymology of failure, because I was like, where is this word coming from? And, because it comes like from, I think, some French word, which means lack of. And now I got really angry. I was like, why does it lack of? If something lacks, it also means that you can see other opportunities then instead. So I was like, no, we need to transform this word. So I like what you're saying. And when you talk about, looking ahead and not concentrating on the stumbling blocks, as you said, but rather understanding the opportunities that one has, do you believe that in our education system, are we teaching that enough? Or what are gaps that we have in the education system that could actually really help and support soon-to-be or hopefully soon-to-be entrepreneurs on their path?
We have a lot of movements in educational system. That doesn't mean it's enough. We need to push that way, way more. I would also like to mention that we have many initiatives where girls, just in the more technical areas.
In sciences.
And I think we really need that. We need more role models, more women who dare to go there. Again, I had that in the US a lot. I mean, it was just kind of a computer scientist. It's no problem. I mean, my husband actually worked as a computer scientist, and he had many women there 20 years ago, and they were actually their superior. No big deal. What's the thing here? So, and back to your question, in our educational system, yes, we need that. And from early on, expose our kids, boys and girls, to that, expose them to entrepreneurship. And we have that actually in the trading schools. We have that now with My Idea. It's actually George Berger and Susan Müller from the BFH Bern. And they push that very much in the whole school system in Switzerland. And I'm actually heavily involved in one of these entrepreneur skills. That's by Swiss Skills, where we have a new skill set of a profession that pushes that in trading schools. Of course, in gymnasium belongs that as well. They have that system also, where we teach the toolkits. What you actually have to do in order to think entrepreneurial. Doesn't mean that they have afterwards a startup. Doesn't mean that they are entrepreneurs themselves. But to have these people working in academia, working in other professions, thinking, what could be the solution here? And not in the mindset of problems. We need that. We need that desperately. And the earlier we implant this mindset, the better.
You mentioned also now girls in tech jobs, and also before with the Female Founders Accelerator, etc. We know that there are more and more initiatives also specifically for female founders. What is your opinion? Why do you believe that we still need those? Or why are they necessary?
Oh, they are definitely necessary. When I just, statistics, around 2% of startup, women-led startups get investment. So might be a little bit wrong with 2%, but that's one I read last. That really, I think this is, how can that be? Of course, we have not as many yet women who do that, but this just shows probably also they are not visible enough. that we have to push more also their abilities or also the way, what kind of startups they're leading. And when I just look at the female founder accelerator in spring, what I mean, finance was not my task, but I looked over the overall pitch of them and did the initial coaching and training. There were other trainers doing that as well. But when I looked at the pitches before, I had often to ask these women and say, what are your finance slides and so on? And they were just kind of saying, oh, I have not that yet, or I need to kind of build that up. That's exactly the moment. Let's build that up. Let's look at this. So I don't know. I mean, we have many initiatives also here in Switzerland who kind of bring some finances more to women. I don't know why they are not as exposed as men. Mm-hmm. But this is something that they're lacking. They just need to learn it. And so I said, let's look at it. What is missing there? And if you have specific coaching also in that. Mm-hmm. So the finance aspect. And then definitely what I also saw was really interesting for me that women in general, I generalize now, not every woman is like this, but women, I normally have to push much more to say, and why do you say what your expertise is? And why do you always say it could be or should be? I mean, you're making this happen, so just cross these words out. I have to do that much more to women. And I don't think because they're less capable. I think it's really just that they're more cautious with their wording, that they are maybe overthinking more, that they have not dared to stand a little bit bolder there. I mean, I'm working sometimes really also on their posture and say, I mean, if you really enjoy that, I really would also like to see the joy in your face, or just kind of taking this room. And I think compared to men, I think they just learn that more. It comes more natural. And I think you have to learn that as a woman. I mean, my background, I was telling you about my father who kind of was thinking I should not go into academics. He actually even thought that I get married anyway. And so this was just, thank goodness, this was just so foreign, that thought of my father. So this is strange. So it was never something I accepted. And I think we just cannot accept that. It's just, and I see that more and more in young women. But this is something our society, and I speak now really clearly also about Switzerland. Europe is here much more ahead. Mm-hmm. I think we are, in this aspect, we are behind. As a woman, I myself was asked so many more times, I had to prove so much harder that I can do the job, can do it as good or better, had to work harder, and I can prove that with certain things, with facts. And I think we need really to question ourselves. Even I myself, as a woman, when I coach women, I have to look at my bias, what I have, and we have to be much more aware of it. Mm-hmm. And this is a reality, and we need to show these biases. We need to be aware of it. We need to name it, and then not just kind of put people down who use it, but just kind of really teach them also, how can you do better? Mm. Or why don't you invest in this super cool startup? Mm. Yes, it's a woman who's leading it. Oh, she's even pregnant. She even has a family. Oh my gosh, I have seen women, they could do it all. Not every woman can do that. Not every man can do it. So we need to come back to what are their strengths? Mm-hmm. What are their possibilities? Where are they looking at resources they can pull?
Mm. And again, also in this reflection part, right? Reflect and also acknowledge your biases in that.
Very
in that
much
sense.
so. Very much so.
Mm. That's really interesting. You said before at the beginning that you love coaching entrepreneurs because they inspire you and they're so courageous. And you said that, or I read somewhere that you said that building a startup is a huge opportunity. Why is that?
Because you can learn so much. I see in no other professions. I mean, I had, again, yesterday evening when we had our high performer, one of the participant was saying, I was 3 years ago, he quit his job and started his own startup. And he said, I went back to my former company and to my work colleagues. And he said, they're still doing the same. And kind of course, a little bit different. And not to diminish what they're doing at their company. This is totally okay. But he wanted to do something else. And he said, I realized where I am today and what I have accomplished. So we went actually around and then just kind of made it very clear to everybody, hey, what have you learned so far? And so they were saying, I could lead a team. I managed to get money in. I could overcome really some difficult situations. I learned to talk to investors. I was leading a board. I mean, I can name now more than 20 things what they have learned, and also just kind of coming to their own limits, which is not so comfortable, but better with 30 than with 50, and you kind of collapsing and cannot pick it up anymore. So I think it's one of the greatest things you can do. And I would just like to add, I have 3 sons, and my middle son is just starting his own startup, his own company. And I'm just so thrilled for him because I think he has the opportunity to learn so much. And just can you imagine when he goes back afterwards and say, okay, this startup was not for me. I would like just to go to a company. What kind of skill sets he has. I love it. I think this is something that actually every young person should experience, not necessarily as a CEO, but it can also be a founder. It can be as a team member. It's such a great school, like going to learn a language. It's kind of the entrepreneurial language you learn.
Oh, that's a wonderful way to describe it. The entrepreneurial language. I like that. So to wrap it up a little bit, I asked you before what happened in the last 10 years or so in the Swiss landscape and where is it today? Where is it heading? How do you see the Swiss startup landscape in the next 1 or 2 decades?
Oh, of course, I wish that I knew exactly, but I can kind of guess. I'm guessing now. I think we will have a tremendous increase of many more different way how we do startup. I mean, when we see this artificial intelligence, I mean, we are only at the beginning of it. I see that very similar to the World Wide Web. I've been reading up on this, and much smarter people who know about that and are kind of digging into that have explained that. And the more I read that, the more clearly I see that, because it's kind of an enabler. It's an enabler in every industry, actually. And it's an industry in all branches, from biotech, medtech, over computer science, SaaS companies, and so on. So I think we are really at the brink of an evolution, maybe even a revolution after this, with all its downsides. But I want to look at the positive side. I think we can bring a lot of good, just also with the individualized medicine. I mean, I think this is super. So this is kind of one area. But then I also think Switzerland, if we really manage to put more money in, if we really manage also to support scale-ups, that they don't need to go overseas. I mean, not even Europe is big enough for that. I think we have, and now I'm just only talking about Switzerland, but we are interconnected, of course. But I think if we manage this, we have a very bright future. If not, I see a dark hole there also. I mean, I see really both. Where are we heading? The future of entrepreneurship. When I look at we had just this entrepreneur skills competition. We had 20 young people, 8 teams. And they were just all saying, I learned so much just in this. It was a selection day. Some of them went also in a talent program with us. In these 3-4 days, I can learn so much more. I mean, if we can push that ahead, and I want to look hopefully in the future. Where are we at in 10 years, 20 years? I think we will be better off, also climate-wise. There lies the future. I don't see that with big tech companies doing that. I see that with startups. And again, we need to support them, and in the way that they can grow and not be limited.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think this is a great outlook for the next decades. And before we finish this podcast episode, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions. So I will just ask the question and you can say the first thing that pops into your mind. In which topic would you like to be coached in?
In AI.
Love it. What is the best quality for a CEO to have?
Self-reflection and resilience.
Mm-hmm. Startup mentor or startup founder?
Both. Both.
I knew you were going to say that. And then last, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Just start earlier, be braver, just go out and do it. Don't overthink it.
Just do it. Thank you so much, Regula, for this very passionate and inspiring conversation. I took a lot of it also from myself, and I'm sure for all the listeners. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next 2 decades in this very bright future.
Thank you so much, Merle and Swisspreneurs, for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.